Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to today's TSF1 Podcast with Alex and Panos. Hello, Panos.
Hello, Alex.
With some delay. Dimitris is not today with us, so no Bob jokes, we promise. And we will dive into, I think it was one of the most anticipated races of the year, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So, without further ado, Panos will kick off with, we have quali, we have hyperpole, basically all the pre-race stuff.
Exactly. So, in first place in the qualifying session in the hypercar class, we have with number 15 the BMW M Team WRT, second Cadillac Racing with the number 3, and third Ferrari AF Corse with the number 50. Moving on to LMP2 category, in first place we have the Cool Racing with the number 37, second place AO by TF with the number 14, and third place United Autosports USA with the number 23. Moving on to Hyperpole, we have in first place in Hypercars Porsche Penske Motorsport with the number 6, followed by Cadillac Racing with number 2, and in third place we have another Cadillac with the number 3 car. Moving on to LMP2, in first place in the Hyperpole we have AO by TF with the number 14, followed by IDEC Sport with number 28, and in third place we have Spanish Racing with number 65. Lastly, in the LMGT3 category, in first place we have Inception Racing with number 70 McLaren, second place Manthey Pure Racing with number 92 Porsche, and in third place we have a Ferrari with number 66, the JMW Motorsport.
Great. So, without further ado, I think we can move to the main race. So, despite the fact that we had rain and mist and fog and crashes and everything, we also had the LMP2 cars for Le Mans, as Panos said. But without further ado, so beginning the race, we had the number 50 and 51 Ferraris taking the first two places straight away from the first lap, directly putting the Penske Motorsport Porsche 963 under pressure. And unfortunately, BMW, who takes place for the first time this season on Hypercar, their number 20 car had an outing on the last chicane on the very first lap. Moving on a few hours after completing the first stints, the two hypercar class Lamborghinis had unfortunately also spun out directly after the before the driver change, without even really beginning their stint. The one had it directly out of the pits, and the other one was just 1 or 2 corners down. The number 3 Cadillac was the next hypercar that was very close to being in a DNF. So, because on the S's, she just very lightly touched the barriers and managed to continue racing. The other team that came and wanted really to put on a show, because Alpine is also French, as we know, amongst with Peugeot, was the Alpine endurance team. The number 35 car, one of the two hypercars, gets out of the race and has to finish it prematurely because of an engine failure on the Mulsanne straight. Unfortunately for the team, on the very same lap, the sister car barely made it to the pits, but in the end, unfortunately, it didn't manage to come out again. As the race progressed, we had the first penalties that came from various small or bigger accidents. One of the most notable one was the spun out of the number 85 Huracan in the LMGT3 category, the car driven by the all-female Iron Dames team, which had an exit, basically a spin-off after lightly colliding with the with the Penske Motorsport Porsche 963. The number 15 BMW of Team WRT also had, as the night started to fall, a touch with the number 83 Ferrari, where the Ferrari was basically the reason why the BMW exited, but unfortunately the crash in the barriers took it out of the race, and she didn't manage to, there was no way to continue that race, and she brought out also the first safety car, which lasted for an hour in order for the barriers to be completed. The next car, another WRT team BMW M4 GT3, was the number 46, the one car from the team of drivers that Valentino Rossi is amongst. Again, it also had an outing of the track that ended up being an accident, and it didn't manage to continue the race. During the night, we had the safety car out for a total of 4 hours because we had fog, we had difficult conditions generally. Many drivers had issues with their that they could not see out of their cockpit because the windscreens were fogging up. And it was really like a long and very tough night for the crew, for the drivers doing the night stints. As the sun started to rise again at dawn, the first unfortunate outing was the number 24 LMP2 of the Proton competition team, which also had a crash with the barriers because of the slipness of the track on slick tires. And at the Porsche curves, ironically, the number 4 Porsche 963 of Penske Motorsport also had an outing because of the slippery asphalt. As the day progressed, the next big accident that also brought the next safety car out was a big spin out and barrel roll of the number 27 Aston Martin Vantage, which it spun, it slipped, and then it crashed relatively high speed with the rear part of the car, finally doing a roll and landing on its roof. But the driver came out okay, and he went to the medical center and all was fine, thankfully for him. The next big crash that barely made it to the pits and managed to at least do not bring out another safety car at that point was the IMSA Cadillac number 311, which again also had a pretty big impact around noon. Continuing down the road, we had the next outings and the DNFs. The first would be a mechanical problem with the hybrid system of the number 83 Ferrari 499P, which came in for a pit stop, and somehow it was like a small fire, or maybe not. So at that point we saw a lot of smoke coming on from the front part, where the front hybrid powertrain is. Now, was it the electronics, was it the motor itself? We didn't know. But she basically did not continue. She came out of the race at that point. Finishing in the final 2 hours, then very notable and quite controversial, I would say, event was the crash maybe is a bit exaggerated, but we had a small impact between the number 51 Ferrari 499P and the number 8 Toyota GR010 hybrid of Gazoo Racing, with the number 8 losing a very significant battle that it was having against the leading at that point number 50 Ferrari 499P, although nothing was really sure on, everybody was contending at that point for the first place. Finally, the checkered flag was dropping. At that point, the Ferrari 499P of AF Corse with the number 50 being the first car to cross the finish line with barely enough fuel to make it, and the battle between the number 51 Ferrari 499P and the number 7 Toyota GR10 hybrid made the whole thing very unsure on who was gonna win. In the end, Toyota number 7 came up front. So, the results from the race. On hypercars, we have the number 50 Ferrari AF Corse in first place with 311 laps. With the same number of laps, we are following the number 7 Toyota Gazoo Racing and the number 51 Ferrari. And the other two places of the first 5 were the number 6 Porsche 963 of Porsche Penske Motorsport, with the number 8 Toyota Gazoo Racing GR10 following. Now on LMP2 we had on the first place the United Autosports number 22 Oreca 07 Gibson. On second place we had the Inter-Europol competition Oreca 07 Gibson with the number 34, and in the third place again an Oreca 07 Gibson of IDEX Sport with the number 28. Wrapping up the LMGT3 category, on first place we had the number 91 Porsche 911 of Manthey EMA, followed by the number 31 M4 LMGT3 of Team WRT, with the last step being the Proton competition Ford Mustang LMGT3. So one thing that I think we should be mentioning, as Panos also said in the Greek version of our podcast, is that we have like two newbies on the second and third place, which is pretty interesting, right?
Exactly. I think BMW and the other team both showed some great results as their first participation in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So let's hope for some
pretty interesting action moving forward, I think. We also saw like on the Nürburgring 24 Hours, also like the BMW M4s were like really strong. They were pushing, so it's a great car and we look forward to seeing what it will do in the remaining of this season and of course next season. So speaking of the remainder of the season, we have the next race would be the 6 Hours of Sao Paulo, taking place between July 12th and the 14th, so in around 3 weeks time at this point. And yeah, I think Interlagos is a pretty interesting F1 track, so it will be really nice to see how things will go with the hypercars and most importantly with the LMGT3 cars, I think, at this point. So I guess only time will tell. Thank you very much from our side for listening to us today. Next time we will try to bully the Bob kid to come, Dimitris. I hope we don't get black flagged for saying the word bully on YouTube, because like today you can't even pop a joke. But anyway, so I guess Panos, we can say we will be back in around a month's time at this point, right? So we need a bit of time to go through the whole race again and so on. So I think that's a wrap. Thank you very much for listening to us, and we will see you on the next one. Bye bye.